Hello students, welcome to SR Concepts. I am Ravi Verma and in this video we will discuss the topic Bohr's model of atom. Dear students, we have discussed the drawback of Rutherford's model of the atom. The drawback of Rutherford's model of the atom was that according to Rutherford there is a positively charged nucleus at the center, and around this nucleus the electrons, which are negatively charged particles, revolve in circular paths. As we know that electrons are material particles, means they have certain mass and they also have negative charge on them. If such a particle is revolving in circular path, it should be under acceleration because it is changing its direction and maintaining the circular path. Now if the electrons are under acceleration, if electrons are under acceleration, they should lose the energy, they should radiate the energy, and with the reduction of energy the path of electron should become smaller and smaller gradually, and the electron should fall on the nucleus. As we know that electrons are negatively charged and nucleus is positively charged, so it should fall on the nucleus. In short, we can say if the electrons are moving on circular path, they should lose energy, their path should become smaller and smaller, and they should fall on the nucleus. That means the atom should be highly unstable if the electrons are moving in circular paths. And if the atom is unstable, that means the matter should be unstable. But we know the reality is that the atom is highly stable structure, and because of this the matter is stable in nature. So Rutherford could not explain why do electrons not lose the energy while moving in the circular paths as suggested by him. So this drawback was actually clarified, or we can say corrected, by Bohr's model of atom. Niels Bohr given two postulates. In these two postulates we can say these were the two major postulates, and through his postulates Niels Bohr explained why electrons do not radiate energy, means why the atom is stable. According to him, Niels Bohr said only certain special orbits known as discrete orbits of electrons are allowed inside the atom. And he said and explained that while revolving in the discrete orbits, the electrons do not radiate energy. Let's understand it by looking at this diagram. He said that there are certain fixed discrete orbits. Only these orbits are allowed, or we can say the electrons are allowed to radiate in these discrete orbits only. They cannot revolve anywhere around the nucleus, but only in the fixed discrete orbits. And he said that while electrons are revolving in these orbits, they do not radiate or lose energy. Dear students, what is written here? Let's read. These orbits or shells are called energy levels. So each of these orbits, as you can see the circular paths, these orbits are called discrete orbits. They are also called shells, or they are also called energy levels. So we can say there are three names for the same thing: the discrete orbit, the shell, or the energy levels. Now these shells or the energy levels are expressed, or we can say these are represented by the English letters K, L, M, N in capital, or by the orbit numbers or energy level index, which may be 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. the orbit number is represented by small n. So dear students, let's take the example. Let's understand this fact by looking at this figure number 4.3. The shell which is closest or nearest to the nucleus, as you can see, this shell is nearest to the nucleus. So this shell is always called K shell. So in any atom, the shell which is nearest to the nucleus is given the letter capital K, and it is called K shell. And for this shell, the orbit number is 1. In the same way, for the second shell or the next shell, the letter is L, so it is called L shell, and the orbit number is 2. In the same way, the third shell is called M shell, and the fourth shell is called N shell. So we denote the shells by K, L, M, N, and so on, these letters, as we are moving away from the nucleus, or 1, 2, 3, 4, as we are moving away from the nucleus. Dear students, the next topic is neutrons, but as we have already discussed in the previous video, we need not to discuss this again in the video. But the content or the topic as given here in the NCERT textbook is very important, so you should read this topic once again. Okay, now let's move on to the next topic. How are electrons distributed in different orbits or shells? So dear students, now we know that in an atom there may be shells like K, L, M, N, and so on. How the electrons are distributed, how many electrons will be accommodated in different shells, right? How this is determined. So to distribute the electrons in the different shells, certain rules were given by Bohr and Bury, that is called Bohr-Bury scheme. These rules need to be followed while we are determining, while we are writing the number of electrons in different shells. So let's understand these rules. First of all, first rule, the maximum number of electrons present in a shell is given by the formula 2n square, where n is the orbit number or the energy level index, which may be 1, 2, or 3. For example, if we want to determine the maximum number of electrons in K shell, which is the first shell, right? You know that the total number of electrons will be 2n square, and as we know that n for the K shell, n is 1, so 2n square will become equal to 2 into 1 square, that is 2 electrons. So for the K shell or for the first shell, the maximum number of electrons will be 2. So only 2 electrons can be accommodated in the first shell. Now for the second shell, that is the L shell, here you can see n is equal to 2. So the maximum number of electrons will become 2n square equal to 2 into 2 square, that will become equal to 8. So we can say for the L shell or the second shell, the maximum number of electrons is 8. In the same way, we have calculated here the maximum number of electrons for M shell, that is the third shell, will be 18, and the maximum number of electrons for the fourth shell will be 32. But not only this 2n square rule is followed, there are 2 more rules which need to be followed while writing the number of electrons in different shells. The second rule is this, that the maximum number of electrons that can be accommodated in the outermost orbit will be 8. So in any atom, suppose that there are 1, 2 and 3 shells. For the outermost shell, the maximum number of electrons can be 8, but not more than 8. So 9 electrons or 10 electrons cannot be accommodated in the outermost shell, whatever may be the orbit number of the outermost shell. For example, here the orbit number of the outermost shell is 3, and we know that for the third shell the maximum number of electrons can be 18, but as in this atom the third shell is the outermost shell, then the number of electrons will be 8 only, means not more than 8 electrons can accommodate it in the outermost shell. The next rule, let's understand, electrons are not accommodated in a given shell unless the inner shells are filled. That is, the shells are filled in a stepwise manner. That means, suppose if there are first shell and the second shell, suppose there are two shells, so the electrons can be accommodated or filled or moved to the second shell only if the first shell is completely filled. In the same way, if there are three shells, if we talk about third shell, then any electron will occupy the third shell only if the second shell is completely filled. Means, as you know that the maximum capacity of the second shell is 8, right? So the total 8 electrons should be filled in the second and 2 should be filled in the first shell, then only the next electron will come into the third shell. This cannot happen that there are only 6 in the second shell and the electrons are moving or being accommodated in the third shell. This cannot happen. Okay, now let's have a look at the electron distribution of different elements in different shells. In hydrogen, there is only one electron, so you can see the first electron or the one electron will be accommodated in the first shell only. As you know that in helium there are two electrons, so these two electrons will be accommodated in the first shell only. As you know that the first shell can accommodate two electrons. If there are three electrons, as you can see in lithium there are three electrons, so in the first shell there will be one and two electrons, and the third shell will go into the second shell. So here again, as you can see, the rule is followed that the inner shell is first filled completely, then only the electron is moving into the next shell. Now let's look at the next any other atom. For example, here you can see there are 4 electrons, right? In carbon there are 6 electrons actually, right? So how they will be accommodated? Suppose that this is the nucleus. In the first cell, as you know, we are filling the carbon atom, right? As you know that the maximum number of electrons, the total number of electrons is 6. So in the first shell there will be 2 electrons and the second shell will accommodate 1, 2, 3 and 4 electrons. In the same way, as you can see, nitrogen has total 7 electrons. So in the first shell there are 2 electrons and the second shell is accommodating remaining 5 electrons. In the same way, in oxygen the first shell will have 2 electrons and the second shell will have 8 electrons. So total become 8 electrons. In the fluorine, total number of electrons is 9, right? So what will be the electron configuration? In the first shell there will be 2 electrons, the remaining electrons will go into the second shell. So the 9 electrons will be distributed like 2 and 2 in the first shell and 7 in the second shell. Now for neon, as you can count here, total number of electrons is 10. So 2 electrons are accommodated in the first shell and 8 electrons are accommodated in the second shell. Now let's come to another element, that is sodium. This one is important. As you know, sodium has total 11 electrons, right? So the first shell you will accommodate 2 electrons. In the second shell, how many electrons there may be? Now if out of 11 2 electrons have been filled, now how many remaining? 9. But these 9 electrons cannot be accommodated in the second shell because this is the outermost shell, and also by 2n square rule the maximum capacity of the second shell is 8 only. So the second shell will accommodate 8 electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Now how many have been accommodated? 2, 8 have been accommodated. How many remaining? 1 electron. This remaining 1 electron will go into the third shell. So the electron configuration of sodium atom will be 2, 8, 1. Now the extra electrons in the next elements will be accommodated according to this rule. As here you can see, in the third shell of sodium there is 1 electron. Now magnesium has 12 electron, so the new electron will be accommodated in the same shell, that is the third shell. In this way we will keep on adding 1 electron in the third shell till the third shell reaches the maximum capacity, that is 8, if it is being the outermost shell. As here you can see that in the element argon, the maximum the outermost shell, that is the third shell, is having total 8 electrons. Right now, in the next element, the next electron will be accommodated in the fourth shell, not in the third shell, because the outermost shell can accommodate only 8 electrons, not more than 8 electrons. So thank you for watching this video. You should have a look at the electronic configuration of these elements, that is the electron distribution in the different shells of these atoms, so you will understand the topic completely. You may ask for any query in the live interactive session, right? So just practice them again and again, draw them in your copy, and you will learn how the electrons are filled. Simply you have to follow the 3 rules as discussed here. Thank you for watching this video.